Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special podcast presentation on this beautiful Philadelphia night. I am your host, Mr. Don Manigley, but known to all of my followers on Instagram as Donny Cage223, and I am joined tonight by a very good friend of mine, Mr. Brian Burke, also known as Top Tier Brian. Welcome to the show, Brian.
What an introduction. What's up, Mr. Cage?
What's up is I am happy to be here, my friend. I am loving life right now, and I am excited to talk about what we're going to talk about.
It's quite ironic that, Donny Cage, we're about to talk about something very similar.
Yes, hint, to what we're talking about. Donny Cage. It's not a coincidence that is my Instagram handle. Johnny Cage from Mortal Kombat happens to be one of my all-time favorite video game characters, and that is going to be the topic of conversation on this podcast. Mortal Kombat, more specifically, our history with Mortal Kombat, take you through the film franchise, and even give you a little bit of a preview of our thoughts on the new Mortal Kombat movie that is hitting theaters and HBO Max in April 2021. Brian, since you are the guest here, I want you to start us off. Tell us about your personal history with Mortal Kombat.
Okay, for me, Mortal Kombat goes way back to my childhood. I was very young when I was introduced to such a violent but fantastic video game. My mother actually got me into Mortal Kombat because she would play it all the time. And she would destroy me. If I'm being perfectly honest here, she would use a scorpion and just keep throwing the spear at me over and over and over again. I used to get so frustrated. When I was younger, she definitely showed me the meaning of gamer rage because I used to get so upset. And yeah, so my fighting game career later would kick off. And I would have to say that that's all thanks to my mother, who introduced me to the violence that is Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat 2, to be exact.
Thank you so much, Brian's mom, for introducing your son to that incredibly violent video game franchise and making him the man he is today. No, but I think I had a very similar experience, although, and again, my history with the franchise goes way back to the first game. We're talking 1993, 94. I think I played Mortal Kombat for the first time at an arcade, probably at a cousin's birthday party or something. And then when I finally got a Sega Genesis for Christmas, I believe it was Christmas 1994, that's when I eventually got myself copies of Mortal Kombat and Mortal Kombat 2, of course, which as you just said right now, and I think most fans would agree, is probably considered the pinnacle of the series, even though it's had many installments since that time, and still continues to be extremely successful to this day. Everybody says, oh, Mortal Kombat 2 is my favorite of all of them.
Or they'll go the MK3 route. Mortal Kombat 3 Ultimate was, oh man, that was good.
That was definitely a good one. Definitely very frustrating, though. I remember being in arcades playing Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, and I wanted to reach through the screen and strangle Curtis Stryker every time he threw a grenade at me. I'd go to jump in the air and he'd get hit by a grenade. Jump in the air, he'd get hit by another grenade.
So you have to deal with that, or you have to deal with the worst kind of player, which I am guilty of, was the noob Cybot, who would spam that godlike combo. He had like a target combo that he did. It was so good.
I do remember that. Was that the one where we kind of like juggle people in the air?
Yeah, he would just beat the crap out of you.
Fun times. I was always personally, it took me a lot of practice to get good at the special moves, and when I finally did, then I was very limited as far as the combos. And those games, especially the later ones, like you said, beginning with Mortal Kombat 3, were all about the combos. If you don't master combos, you are dead as a doornail playing Mortal Kombat.
That is very true.
Now, the funny thing is, it's like when you look back at the history of the game series, do you think that at some point the special moves, or more specifically, You know, you started out with the fatalities in the first two games, then eventually they started introducing babalities, friendship,
Hmm.
animalities, brutalities. It's like, no, you're not even going to kill your opponent now. You're just going to beat them up and hurt them really bad. It's like I said to myself at some point, all right, I think they're getting a little carried away now, but I guess that's what keeps it fresh.
You left one out. The forbidden suicide fatality that was added in like the 3D games, which were pretty bad. But
I think I actually do vaguely remember those. I think they were introduced maybe in Mortal Kombat 4, if I remember correctly.
yeah, I think they were called Harakiri, something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
And the character would kill themselves. I'm like, okay, good job, Ed Boon.
you do you. And you see, me, it was, and we'll get into this a little bit more later, but I remember when Mortal Kombat started to transition into the more 3D games. You had you had Mortal Kombat 4, and then eventually they went to Deadly Alliance, Deception, Armageddon. I think was the last one before they did the reboot in 2011. Um, I remember playing a few of those games and thinking these are fun, but I don't know, something about playing on the 3D axis just didn't feel natural in a Mortal Kombat game, at least for me. For some people, maybe it did, but I'm more of a traditional Mortal Kombat. It's got to be on a 2D plane, two people running back and forth.
I 100% agree, Don. Look, me personally, I always preferred fighting games to be on a 2D playing field because it feels more of a chess match to me. I don't know what it is. It's just the fights just feel better. 3D I could never get into. That's why I never really liked Tekken, to name drop that game. I never cared for Tekken. The 3D Mortal Kombat I never cared for, although they did have some interesting features and costumes too. Shouts out to Sub-Zero.
Sub Zero definitely benefited from the cosmetic change. There's no
Yes, he
that was
did.
one of the things I did like about the 3D games was that the game designers definitely got more creative with the ninja designs. It wasn't just like let's palette swap Scorpion, Sub Zero, Reptile, Rain, all these other ninjas. Let's actually make them look distinctively different from one another.
Right, right. Which was also adopted by their rival Capcom in Street Fighter, because for a while they did palette swaps. Well, not really a palette swap, but Ken and Ryu were basically the same character for so long. And then they finally gave Ken his own swagger. You know what I mean?
Exactly, and it only makes sense. I mean, every character should have a different a different way, a different feel, a different way to play them each
Right.
time. It couldn't just be like you palette swapped a character here. Look, they've got the same special moves. But in any case, not to create too much dead air here. For me, I remember it was shortly after I bought the PlayStation 3 off of you. I was playing the Mortal Kombat reboot, which is technically Mortal Kombat 9 now. Not that we're necessarily counting numbers anymore, but
No, you're right.
it was
MK9.
Mortal Kombat 9, and it
Mm-hmm.
basically was a reboot of the entire series. It went from final battle at Armageddon and took you all the way back to the first tournament, and then took you all the way through the events of Mortal Kombat 2 and Mortal Kombat 3, climaxed in that big battle between Shao Kahn and Raiden, which was awesome. But it was just so great to see them revisit this storyline and show it to you from a new perspective. It felt so fresh. The gameplay was just so smooth. The graphics were beautiful. Just everything about that game just popped.
Yes. Yes, it did. Me personally, I really enjoyed the exploration of the lore between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Because as far as like the characters are concerned, I think Scorpion and Sub-Zero have the highest potential to carry a film by themselves. It's just such an intriguing story. And of course, you have to have Quan Chi in there, because Quan Chi is the puppet master of the whole rivalry between those two.
Correct. And for those of you who are not Mortal Kombat, who are not hardcore Mortal Kombat fans, Quan Chi is sort of the secondary, I guess you can call him, sorcerer character in the series. He was
Mm-hmm.
introduced a little later than Shang Tsung, who's been there since the very beginning. But Quan Chi is basically the ruler of the Nether Realm, which is Mortal Kombat's version of Hell, basically. And he's the one who basically forces Scorpion to come to the Nether Realm and enslaves him in exchange for telling Scorpion, "I'll help you avenge the death of your family." And of course, the underlying story there that we find out is that Sub-Zero, who we believed for the longest time, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, so I apologize, but Sub-Zero for the longest time, because he was Scorpion's rival, we thought he was the murderer of Scorpion's family, when in fact we later found out that it was Quan Chi posing as Sub-Zero who actually
Right.
committed the crime.
Right, and that's Bihan to be specific, excuse me, which is the older brother of Sub-Zero, the one that lives, excuse me.
And that's a very good point. I think people often forget that there is not one but two Sub-Zeros in Mortal
Mm-hmm.
Kombat 4. Bihan, as you mentioned a minute ago, was the original Sub-Zero, and then you have Kuai Lang, who is the second Sub-Zero, and probably more likely the more popular one because he's basically been included in the series since Mortal Kombat 2.
Right.
He's, but they both, I guess for a long time, many people considered Kuai Lang to be the more honorable of the two Sub-Zeros, even though Bihan himself didn't actually start out as a villain. He was often painted in that light, but that wasn't the original intent of when they introduced the character.
Right, right. Now, eventually, Bihan did embrace the dark side, where he goes down the noob Cybot path. So
Exactly.
that's
And
pretty dope. I love that, man.
it is a great twist, and to be perfectly honest, that's another one that I think a lot of gamers are probably not aware of initially, and I kind of appreciated that the Mortal Kombat reboot, Mortal Kombat 9, really clarified that aspect of the story once and for all. If it was something you weren't already aware of, it's like here it is. This is what happens to Sub-Zero after he's killed by Scorpion in the first tournament.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people did not know that. Me personally, I always kind of drew a correlation between the two because they purposely made Noob Saibot have similar features to Sub-Zero, to where his mask may have been shaped the same way, or his outfit is slightly the same. They always kind of picked at it like, hey, look, we're trying to tell you something that this is story related. Pay attention.
Dropping hints. You guys got to pay better. Yeah, always cool stuff there. And of course, the last couple of games in the Mortal Kombat franchise, they've been starting to introduce the next generation of characters.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen characters like Jackie Briggs and Cassie Cage. We now have the new Emperor of Outworld, Kotal Khan. You have Kung Jin, you have Takeda, all these interesting characters who, to be perfectly honest, because I haven't really played Mortal Kombat X, I don't have a lot of knowledge about some of the new characters. I know like who they're related to and so forth, but not
Right.
a great deal do I know about their fighting styles.
Well, the combat kids pretty much they adopt pretty much the moves of their parents, so to speak. Jackie is very, very similar to Jax. Power hitter, tech gauntlets. Cassie is a combination of her father, Johnny Cage, and Sonya Blade. She's probably the coolest character in Mortal Kombat 11, I would say. Not 11X. She's probably the coolest character in X, hands down. She's also in 11, but in X, man, her fatality was something else. She literally breaks your jaw and takes a selfie with you. It's great, man. It is great stuff.
Isn't that what we all wish we could do sometimes? It's like when we turn on the TV each day, it's like, man, this celebrity or this politician that really gets on my nerves. We're always like, I wish I could just break their jaw and take a selfie of myself with.
Now the new generation character that I found most interesting personally was Takeda. Takeda is the son of Kenshi, the blind swordsman. Complete boss, by the way. So he's the son of Kenshi, but he was trained by Scorpion. So you got a cool dynamic there. It's like, wow, they're really bringing all these characters together.
Yeah, that's a really interesting dynamic there.
And the very cool thing about MKX is that we get to see Scorpion have a redemption of his how do you call it? His spawn like character. Because that's all he is. He's a hell spawn. So really, really cool redemption arc.
Redemption arcs always are interesting, because you see characters who start out good, they kind of turn to the dark side, and then they turn back because some light bulb goes off in their head where they go, maybe I shouldn't be doing this anymore. It kind of, one of my all-time favorite characters in science fiction, Darth Vader. Great example there. Started out as a Jedi Knight, was seduced to the dark side of the Force. And then, of course, when he had a choice of whether to serve as emperor or to save his son, he chose to save his son. And he brought balance back to the Force.
Right.
The balance was undone completely in Episode 7, but that's another video altogether.
That's a whole different show.
Star Wars and Mortal Kombat. I'm actually kind of surprised, speaking of which, that considering all of these DLC characters that exist in the Mortal Kombat games now, I am actually shocked that we have not gotten any Star Wars characters to cross over just yet.
It might happen. And you know what? I'll put money that it will happen. Whenever they make MK12, I'm calling it now. With the success from The Mandalorian, we are going to see Mando in Mortal Kombat 12.
I think that'd be fantastic.
We're going to see it.
Yeah.
Because you got to think about it. Let's think from a creative standpoint, from an artistic standpoint. The Mandalorian's fighting style fits perfectly within the Mortal Kombat universe. He uses guns, he uses tools. He has a cool looking design to him. Who does he remind me of the most characters that exist in the Mortal Kombat universe already? He reminds me of the cyborg ninjas. You got your Sector, you got your Cyrax. He kind of reminds me of those guys. And the fact that he's a bounty hunter, I can see him having some type of story connection with Aaron Black or Kano, who's, spoiler alert, who died in 11. But they're doing this weird time travel arc, so nobody's actually ever dead.
Of course.
Like, you can always bring them back. Like, it's such a DC comic thing, man.
It really it's a DC comic Star Trek thing. Let's just bring time travel back. Time travel and cloning. Which I will say, the good thing about Mortal Kombat over the years is excluding Mileena, which that actually serves a purpose to the story. They have not overused the whole cloning trope.
Bravo.
I'm glad. I give them tons of credit for not overusing that.
Well, except the Baraka clan, the Tarkatans. They literally, they are so expendable. It's not even funny how expendable these guys are. Like, they are so expendable. They use one to introduce Mileena back into the game.
Wow.
They had her hunting one. I'm like, they couldn't find any other character. They had the job out Tarkatan again.
Tarkatans never get any love, do they?
No, they're like a jobber in the WWE.
the red shirts in Star Trek are the stormtroopers in Star Wars.
Yes.
Mortal Kombat stormtroopers. So shifting gears a little bit, I mean, obviously we talked a lot about the games and the influence that they've had on us. You and I both know that Mortal Kombat has been crossing over into other areas of media for many years now, most notably feature films.
Right.
And back in 1995, when I was just 9 years old, first Mortal Kombat movie debuted in theaters, and that was an event for me, going to the theater to see a live action Mortal Kombat movie. That was just like life changing for my 9-year-old self.
You're showing your age, brother.
I am showing my age, but I'll tell you what. I'm never going to forget the story. It was a Friday night. It was probably about 2 weeks after the movie came out, and I just kept begging my dad, "Dad, you got to take me to see it. Dad, you got to take me to see it." For whatever reason, he didn't want to take me on this one night, but he finally relented because he got so sick of me complaining about it. So he took me to the theater. So we get to the theater. We're sitting there watching the movie, and at two different points in the film, the screen cuts out, and we had to basically wait until the projectionist fixed the film. So we probably had about a 15 or 20-minute wait the first time and a similar wait time the second time. So we probably ended up spending over 3 hours at the movie theater when all was said and done. So the movie felt a lot longer than it actually was. But be that as it may, it still brought so much joy to my heart seeing this all come to life on the big screen. I mean, Johnny Cage was like the coolest guy in the world. I mean, he walks on screen for the first time. He's on that film set. You've got the limo all pulled up. You got the palm trees in the background. And you got these four guys lined up in suits. He walks up to them. He takes his sunglasses off and he says, "Let's dance."
Such a Jean-Claude Van Damme ripoff he is.
Not gonna lie, we all know it's true. And the thing about that was, it was supposed to be a Jean-Claude Van Damme video game originally.
Hmm.
But I think it came down to an issue of money when all was said and done, and timing and all that. So they said, well, we can't have Van Damme. We'll create a Van Damme ripoff. Here's
And
Johnny.
he was Gal at the time too, so.
Exactly. Yes. Um, but yeah, that first movie was the first, and still to this day, one of the only video game based movies that got it right. Because really, except for the exclusion of most of the fatalities, it pretty much hit all the major story beats. You had Liu Kang going after Shang Tsung for the death of his brother. You had Johnny Cage trying to prove to the entire world that he wasn't just a movie star, he was the real deal when it came to martial arts. And you had Sonya Blade trying to hunt down Kano, who had killed her partner.
Amazing Sonya, by the way.
Bridget Wilson, she was
Yeah,
great. Definitely proved her worth. Fun fact: Cameron Diaz was originally cast as Sonya
I
Blade.
was about to say
But due to
that.
the story. Due to an injury, she had to get axed. They they cast Bridget Wilson in the role, and I thought she did a great job, especially considering how late into production she came aboard.
I
Um,
love Cameron Diaz, but I don't see her as Sonya Blade though.
yeah, it's kind of hard to picture. I mean, I know eventually she would flex her action muscles a little bit later with the Charlie's Angels movies,
Yeah.
mostly for comic effect.
Hmm.
But but yeah, that particular time, it was a little hard to picture her as Sonya Blade. And then of course that was the first movie that established Kano as an Aussie, because he was always supposed to be an American in the video.
Right, right, right.
The one guy walks on the screen, he's like, "That's it, baby. Come to Papa."
And that was great. That was such a good Kano. Like they nailed Kano. They nailed it. Even with the way his eye looked, the cybernetic eye, that looked cool.
Yeah, it did. Especially that one shot where he's in the where he's near the dock, and all you can see is like the shadow and
Oh, with the hooks. Yeah, the hooks. Yep.
such a, the one thing that always disappointed me, I will say, about the first Mortal Kombat movie is that scene where they're on the ship, and Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, and Sonya Blade are confronted by Shang Tsung, and Shang Tsung turns and he opens the door, and here comes Scorpion and Sub Zero, and you're like, "Oh man, here they come!" And then the two of them kind of like real quickly show off their powers. Then Raiden just shows up and blasts them against the wall with his lightning. And he says to Shang Tsung, "Enough, your sideshow freaks attacked my fighters." And I'm sitting there kind of thinking to myself, they didn't actually lay a hand on the fighters. What do you mean they attacked them?
Yeah, it's a pretty pretty situational writing there. And me personally, I didn't like that they jobbed two of the strongest characters in the MK universe. Don't get me wrong, they wouldn't hold a candle to Raiden, because Raiden in his strongest form is incredibly powerful.
Absolutely.
But
And you can't go wrong casting the Highlander. as the God of Thunder. I mean,
No, you cannot. He was a great Raiden.
he was he had a lot of funny lines. I still love the bit um, where after the three heroes beat up the Shang Tsung's guards, he's sitting there clapping, going, "Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So why don't you show me what you plan to do about them?" And they turn, and there's about 16 guards, all armed with swords, behind them, and they're like, what do we do?" And Raiden's just like, and he shows a quick bolt of lightning coming from his hands, and the guards immediately back down.
Right, and that's literally them telling us how much of a badass, excuse my French, Raiden actually was. And it's weird though, because there are times where, like, going back to the video games real quick, like in the cinematic cutscenes, there are times where Raiden is fighting like just regular dudes, like Tarkatans or whatever. He's fighting regular guys, fist to fist combat, hand to hand combat. It's like, Raiden, did you forget that you're a thunder god? Can you like kill everybody already and get it over with? Like, it takes a dramatic moment for him to realize, oh wait, I am the thunder god. Hold on.
Well, in many ways, it's kind of like the Neo effect in the Matrix movies. Like after he discovers his powers, you would think he would just like be able to wave his hand, and that would be the end of most of his opponents. But we got to have fight scenes, so
Yeah, we gotta have fight scenes, and my argument don't have Raiden in the fight scenes. He's too good. He's too good. Leave him out. Leave him for like boss characters.
exactly. He's the ultimate boss character.
So before we get off of the topic of Mortal Kombat, the first film, so we're still talking about the first film, right?
Sure.
I do want to talk about a very specific fight that really irritated me. Sub-Zero against that random henchman who was making them weird sounds when he was warming up. He was like, yeah. Listen, man, I don't care what anybody says. Sub-Zero punked out on that one. I feel like if Sub-Zero didn't freeze that dude in midair, I think he would have whooped Sub-Zero's ass.
The guy had some moves, I will say. On point.
That man cracked every bone in his body with one back crack. He was ready. And Sub-Zero was like, no, we're not doing this. Freeze ball.
Flawless victory.
I just always found that really comical. Like Sub-Zero, like, listen, bro, you doing all that. I ain't fighting you.
It was definitely a funny moment. And the thing was, in that movie, I remember at the time, the special effects obviously have not held up now, but at the time, those were considered like revolutionary special effects. And the thing that was also really cool was this was back in 1995, so the early days of CGI still. So they couldn't render a full CGI Goro. I mean, Goro is supposed to be 8 feet tall, about 500 pounds, 4 arms, just gigantic. So what did they do? Well, he's an animatronic puppet, and at the time, especially, it looked really good. You were just like, "Wow, man, that's Goro walking on screen. That's pretty cool." And of course, you had Kevin Michael Richardson, who's a famous voice actor who did the voice, and that guy was just so great at voicing Goro.
Man, you look back at that now though. Oh, not very good. Not very
Father
good.
Time has not been good to it. There's no question about it.
Yeah, Tom was not very generous with that one.
But two scenes in particular that still hold up to this day, obviously, are the Johnny Cage Scorpion fight and the Liu Kang Reptile fight. The second fight of which we didn't even know we were getting in the movie because the trailer really didn't give that away that was Reptile.
Get down here.
And I have to also give them props for using that Fear Factory song. Fear Factory, one of my favorite metal bands. Very good song choice there.
Yeah, me personally, I didn't really care for how they did Reptile.
Well, I mean, the CGI Reptile was pretty awful. I will say that
the CGI Reptile was pretty awful, and they yeah, I think that's one of the weak points. Goodness gracious, this Raise energy drink, this is not a plug. This Raise energy drink that I'm currently sponsored by is making me burp. Drink Raise energy. Anyway, Reptile. is actually a very interesting character. Apparently, so from what I've read, right, is that Reptile gets more and more reptilian the longer he's away from his homeland. So he's technically supposed to be like we've seen him in the original games, where it was a pilot swap for a while. It was just a green ninja. So in hindsight, I would have preferred to see Sub-Zero like that, Sub-Zero, Reptile like that over the course of the movie, and towards the end, he gets that reptilian look to him. You know what I mean? That would have been dope. But I get it, man.
And it probably would have made more sense as far as like comparing it to the first game, because if you remember, when Reptile would pop up for that special fight in the first game, he basically didn't act very reptilian. He basically had all of Sub-Zero and Scorpion's moves, and that was it.
Right.
It was just a green palette swap version of those two characters. It was not until Mortal Kombat 2 that the reptilian aspects of his character were incorporated.
Which, now that I think about it, they actually did kind of like the games I'm referring to. The timeline in which he got more and more reptilian kept getting worse and worse and worse the further we got into the games. Like, I don't know if anybody noticed that, but with every game, he became more and more reptilian. And I think that was their way of telling a story of Reptile, saying he's been away from his home for this long. This is what he's becoming. You get what I'm saying? That's pretty sick, actually.
That's consistency, too. So you got game designer's credit there.
Yeah, I never realized that until today, actually. That's dope.
Crazy. But yeah, like I said, I mean, the first movie came out in '95. It was a big hit. Naturally, the studio said, well, I mean, we made a lot of money, so we definitely got to do a second one, right? So we were pumped. We thought, all right, are they going to actually make a second one? And it had gone by, you know, a lot of time had passed, and I didn't know if a second movie was actually coming out. I had heard rumors about it. But then I was in the theater one day, and I saw the poster, and it said Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and I was like, yes, we're finally getting a second one.
I remember that.
And the trailer started popping up on TV, so I was pumped. I was like, all right, round two, fight. I'm all for this, man. Let's go. And keep in mind, when Annihilation was released, I was only 11 years old, so I still wasn't the best judge of what constitutes a good movie versus a trashy movie that you can have fun with but is still bad. So I went to the theater, and I didn't make much of it when I saw it in 1997. It was kind of just like, all right, whatever. It's a decent follow-up, I guess. It would have been better if they hadn't replaced half the actors, but all right.
Agreed.
So then a couple years go by, and it must have been around 2002 or so. I sat down and rewatched it. By this point, I'm in high school. And I sat down, and it occurred to me, I said, wow, this movie really sucks. Like, it is bad. I mean, I just, off the top of my head, other than maybe like certain songs on the soundtrack and the fact that Smoke and Cyrax look like they popped right out of the game, like, I will say they looked great on the big screen.
Smoke and Cyrax, yeah, they look cool.
Other than that, everything, the fight choreography, the visual effects, the costumes, the casting, just everything about that movie was terrible.
Yeah, it was. Scorpion looked like a dude in a Halloween costume. It was really bad.
We're not talking like modern day cosplay. We're talking like dollar store Halloween costumes.
Yeah, the Kmart costumes that we all used to wear.
And come to think of it, really, all the ninja costumes looked really cheap in the second movie.
Only reason Sub-Zero's didn't look as cheap is because he didn't have a mask on.
Exactly. He had a mask on for about 5 seconds and then took it off. Also, when he gets introduced, he's apparently Sub-Zero is a master at ziplining, because you can see the wire that he's attached to it.
He's a master at ziplining, and apparently he's related to Nicolas Cage. Because that was not a good Sub-Zero casting. That was terrible. Sub-Zero's supposed to be Japanese.
Yeah, and that guy definitely was not. But
Yeah, that was Nick Cage, bro.
but it's like you say to yourself, why did most of the actors from the first movie who survived the events of the first movie, why didn't they sign on for the second movie? Well, all they had to do was read like the first 2 pages of the script and just be like, nope, I'm good.
Wait, that's what you see. That's where you messed up, Don. They did read the first 2 pages. They saw the scene where he killed Johnny Cage in the first 30 seconds, and
Yeah,
they was like, "No, I'm good."
which I should have when that happened, I should have just walked out of the theater. But dumb me was under the impression that somehow Johnny Cage would be resurrected by the end of the movie. So I figured, well, I'll hang out and just watch the rest of it. And of course, no, Johnny Cage didn't come back.
There was so many character deaths in that movie that were so unnecessary. Like Melina should not have died. Rain, Rain. Keep in mind, Rain is one of the most powerful characters in the Mortal Kombat universe. He's a prince too, by the way. For those of y'all that don't know about Rain, um, he's a demigod. He's one of the demigod like characters. Like he's really powerful, but he got one shot by Shao Kahn because
What?
he was having a temper tantrum.
And the thing is, I remember reading through, I think it was a copy of the novelization of Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Because I wanted to see, sometimes when you read movie novelizations, there are some differences between the final film and the book. And there are a lot of differences, believe it or not. Like some of the fights are kind of different. Remember in the beginning when you have the Earthrealm warriors and the Outworld warriors, well, instead of everybody just standing around trying to look tough, the four Earthrealm warriors actually fight the four Outworld warriors and lose handily, while the Raiden and Shao Kahn fights going on,
I actually like that.
which I do too. But then
Yeah,
as you read through the book, you realize that the dialogue was even worse in an earlier version of the script than it was in the final movie. So I'm kind of glad that they didn't actually go that route. Really, they should have just done what's it called, a stage one rewrite or whatever
right, right.
the term actually is for it. But yeah, I mean, there were just so many pieces of that film that just did not come together. And nowadays, you'll watch interviews with some of the cast and crew members, and they'll say, "Yeah, I think it was just number one, it was just too ambitious what we were trying to do with the second movie, and we were trying to throw too many characters into the mix. Um, we didn't
Yes,
really we didn't focus on making you care about the characters enough, like we did in the first movie. Just everything was just pretty much fight, 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 and really the fights consist of 80% flips. Not
yes.
even a lot of punches and kicks. It's just flip, 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 somersault, somersault,
Flips and
cartwheel,
camera cuts.
camera cut.
Yep. And people just saying something that they thought was clever, but really wasn't.
Exactly. Wish I had these babies back in high school. You're gonna
You
wish.
think you're ready, Liu Kang? Oh man, they did Nightwolf dirty too. Nightwolf did look cool though. He
He
did
did.
look cool.
I will say that he looked
Yeah.
cool. I did sort of like the fact. I mean, even though the animalities were awful, I sort of like the fact that Night Wolf turns into a wolf. He's called Night Wolf for a reason.
Yeah, and that's his thing. That's his thing. They did get that right. They got that right.
Yeah.
They got Jade horribly wrong. They got uh what is her name? Melina. I already mentioned her. They got Melina wrong. They got Sindel right, but that's not saying a lot. Uh they barely got Sindel right. I feel like Sindel was way too nice of a character in the
She was
movie.
borderline as far as whether they did her right or not.
Yeah. And Nude Sidebot, oh my goodness. I cannot believe they butchered one of my favorite characters like that.
Pretty good.
Have him job out the Raiden.
Yeah. Yeah, just awful all around. Just like every time I watch it, I find something else that's bad about it that I didn't notice the first time.
And that's why I only watched it twice.
You saved yourself a lot of hurt.
I will never watch that movie again.
And the thing is, the film was, people don't actually realize like how much of an impact Mortal Kombat Annihilation had on the entire franchise's popularity. because I know a year after Mortal Kombat Annihilation came out, they tried to do a prequel series centered around Kung Lao. Now, not modern day Kung Lao. I'm talking about Liu Kang and modern day Kung Lao's ancestor, the Great Kung Lao,
Hmm.
the one that lost to Goro in the Mortal Kombat tournament. Um, and that's in theory an interesting idea. And I will say, like, there were some good episodes for Mortal Kombat Conquest, but once again, it's another instance where I didn't like what they did with Scorpion and Sub Zero, despite the fact that they showed off a lot more of their fighting prowess in the series. They introduced a lot of new characters that never existed in the Mortal Kombat mythology, which kind of makes sense considering it was a prequel. They show Shang Tsung in his early days. The two characters that they did get right on Mortal Kombat Conquest, which was the prequel series,
Hmm.
Raiden and Shao Kahn, which they did a brilliant job with. Both characters were just portrayed perfectly, and they have an awesome fight in the very last episode of the series, which Shao Kahn wins that fight, by the way, and it creates a huge continuity error for the entire series from that point forward. But since the series was never renewed past one season, we don't know if some of it was, I don't know, a character having a dream, or it was like, or whatever it was, a hallucination that we don't know.
See,
But
I can't really speak too much on this one. I never seen it.
it's it is on DVD, and you probably could find some episodes on YouTube. It's worth checking out just out of curiosity, but certainly not as bad as Mortal Kombat Annihilation, although not much is.
I'm about to say it ain't a lot of movies battling for that role.
But yeah, I mean that was the thing. The franchise kind of died out for a few years, and it was only really in the early to mid 2000s that it started to come back in popularity because
Hmm.
suddenly Mortal Kombat Deception and Mortal Kombat Armageddon and all these other games started selling, and people were all of a sudden getting interested in Mortal Kombat again.
Right.
So then they briefly tried to revive it again in live action as a web series to different degrees of success. Because we had Mortal Kombat Legacy that was on YouTube for 2 seasons. In fact, it was on Machinima, I believe, if I remember right.
Yes. Yes, it was. Yep.
And there was a lot of good stuff, a lot of stuff to like about that series, a lot of stuff I didn't like.
Overall, I didn't really care for it. I felt like too many characters weren't. They just didn't seem like their character. It just seemed. It felt Hollywood to me. It started to feel a little too Hollywood.
Yeah, they took some interesting turns with some of the characters, Liu Kang in particular, which
I really didn't like that.
yeah, I think we all kind of, anyone who has watched season 2 of Mortal Kombat Legacy knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
Um, you certainly can check it out. I mean, it's up on YouTube, and now you can watch the episodes from start to finish.
Like I don't like when uh Hollywood or director, whatever, independent studios, whatever. I don't like when they try to take something that's super cool but yet unrealistic all at the same time and make it realistic. That defeats the purpose of why it's cool. Like we don't need it to be realistic. That just because something is realistic don't mean it's better. You get what I'm saying?
It's a martial arts fantasy epic, and that's why people love it.
Right.
So
And me personally, that's why I always thought, not to get too off topic, but I always thought DC always got that wrong with their films because they tried too hard to create realism, whereas Marvel focused on the fun aspect of superheroes.
which is the main reason why Marvel is still going strong right now.
Right.
You
It's
know, DC is trying to work its way back, and we will see in a couple months' time if that's actually going to happen or if they're going to have to go back to the drawing board again.
they
But
will.
well, I'm pulling for them to succeed. There's no question about it. But no, I think a lot of it, truth be told, is sometimes studios will bring writers and directors onto a property, writers and directors who want to stay faithful to the spirit of that property, but the studio constantly pushes them to change things just because they can.
Right, because they wanted to, be their own unique thing. I don't. Again, with certain stuff, I just don't think it works. Mortal Kombat is definitely up there as one of those things.
Yeah, it's like if you want to do a sort of like grounded martial arts epic, then just create something original.
Yeah.
Don't ground everything in reality, slap the word Mortal Kombat on it, and boom, here you go.
Now that you mention it, I think that's the perfect segue
Oh,
to
this is
talk
the
about the new one.
perfect segue.
Yes, because I have some issues with that one, but I'll let you bring us in.
Well, thank you, sir. So,
Yeah.
as most of you know, after many, many delays, in fact, 26, no, not 26, I apologize, 24 years worth of delays, numerous starts and stops. We are finally getting a new Mortal Kombat movie, but this is not going to be Mortal Kombat 3. Oh no, this is going to be a fresh reboot. Brand new actors, starting the story up again from the very beginning. The movie is just going to be called Mortal Kombat. And
Sick logo. I like the new logo.
very, very cool logo, and you have to differentiate from the original one. As much as I love the old style logo, you have to update it. No question about it. Now, as we know, because of the pandemic, the release date has been delayed numerous times,
Hmm.
but now it is going to be premiering on HBO Max and in theaters on April 16th, 2021. Now, some of the fan favorite characters who are going to be featured in this movie include Liu Kang, Sonya Blade, Kano, Raiden, Jax, Shang Tsung, Sub Zero, Scorpion, Kung Lao, Melina, Nitara, and Cabal, just to name a few. There may be some more that have not been announced yet, but those are the official characters from
Tara, they're doing the Tara? Wow.
Tara.
Okay.
So, I am going to read to everyone the premise of the new Mortal Kombat movie to tell you what we have to look forward to. Now, keep in mind, we have not seen a trailer yet. We've only seen some promotional images, which look promising. Many of the characters do look very much like their video game counterparts, or at least faithful to the design. But this is the premise of the movie. MMA fighter Cole Young, accustomed to taking a beating for money, is unaware of his heritage, or why Shang Tsung has sent his best warrior, Sub Zero, an otherworldly cryomancer, to hunt Cole down. Are, are you still with me, everybody? Okay.
I'm with you.
So, fearing for his family's safety, Cole goes in search of Sonya Blade at the direction of Jax, a special forces major who bears the same strange dragon marking Cole was born with. Soon he finds himself at the temple of Lord Raiden, the protector of Earthrealm, who grants sanctuary to those who bear the mark. Here, Cole trains with experienced warriors Liu Kang, Kung Lao, and rogue mercenary Kano as he prepares to stand with Earth's greatest champions against the enemies of Outworld in a high stakes battle for the universe. But will Cole be pushed hard enough to unlock his arcana, the immense power from within his soul, in time to save not only his family, but to stop Outworld once and for all?
Dum dum dum.
Mortal Kombat!
Fight.
So that is the premise of our new movie, which centers on MMA fighter Cole Turner. Cole, I got to tell you, he's just such a great character. I mean,
I remember playing with Cole in MK3.
yeah, I mean, I just love playing as Cole in MK3, and then they brought him back. I mean, in the reboot, and I mean, he's just been my pick, for every single game since that time.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I'm being sarcastic right now because the character of Cole Young does not exist in the Mortal Kombat mythology.
No, he does not.
He's an original creation. And Brian, I think I'm going to let you take it from me now. I think this is where you and I have problem number one with the reboot.
Okay. Yes. So this is my biggest issue with Hollywood touching our beloved video games, they always have to insert these random characters into the world as a means to drive the story forward instead of just relying on the source material itself. We saw it happen with, what's her name, Alice, right, from Resident
Resident
Evil.
Evil.
We saw it happen with that. That was totally unnecessary character. When you got Chris Redfield, you got all these other characters that are well fleshed out that exist, but you had to have this unique Hollywood character for no reason. All right, whatever. My issue is with Mortal Kombat, not Resident Evil anymore. Um, this character, to me, sounds exactly like the Alice situation. It's a chosen one generic character that is being thrown into the world. Why is this first of all, why is he training with some of these warriors that are literal greats in their world, like Liu Kang and Kung Lao? What did he do to be able to train with them? I don't understand that one. Like Kano, I felt like that would have made more sense. Like, let's say he started out as a merc. That's good writing right there. He starts out as a merc. He works with Kano. I could see him doing that. But why is he just being thrown in there with Liu Kang and Kung Lao? And then how is he going to tie in with Sub-Zero? Like, I don't know, man. It just feels all over the place already, and the movie hasn't even come out. I feel as though this character should have just been Johnny Cage.
I would agree with you because it would make sense. They'd be putting some sort of new spin on the character's origin story, but they'd still be using one of the popular characters from the franchise.
Right,
And
because it's a spin that was that NetherRealm has explored themselves with, because Johnny Cage is so much more important to the story now in the games. He's basically kind of like the Liu Kang role a little bit. Like Liu Kang fell from grace, and Johnny Cage kind of picked up that mantle and became the chosen one with his shadow power. It's actually pretty cool that they did that to Johnny, and his family are basically like the strongest characters now. They could have done this with this character. I don't understand. Like, even if you don't use Johnny, why can't he just be Johnny Cage relative or something? Why is he in connection with Scorpion? What?
at least that's some of the rumors I've been reading online say that he has some sort of familial connection to Scorpion. We don't know exactly what it is. We don't know if this guy has similar powers to Scorpion that he's going to magically develop in the third act of the movie or something. But I'm with you, Brian. I don't understand why you have all these rich characters who are loved by millions of Mortal Kombat fans around the world. Why you can't just center the story on one of them? Okay, well, you don't want to do the story of Liu Kang fighting in the tournament again. Okay, well, Liu Kang could still be in the movie. What? Center the story on Sub-Zero. Center the story on Scorpion. Pick some other character to be at the center of your story.
Right.
I mean, there
Right.
are a million possible endings you can get to the Mortal Kombat games depending on who you beat it as.
It's just so many different alternatives than to create this generic main character that nobody cares about. Like, you expect us to care about this guy? Like, I don't want to be negative, because at the end of the day, it's Mortal Kombat. I'm going to watch it. I love the source material. And to their credit, from what I've seen with the images, Sub-Zero looks great. Scorpion, they haven't shown him yet, but his human form looks good. So if they got human Scorpion right, I think they'll get the costume really done, really well done.
And based on what I've seen, as far as the looks of most of the characters, they look spot on. I mean, Liu Kang and Kung Lao, in my opinion, look great. I thought Jax looked good. I thought Sonya Blade looked good. I'm still a little iffy on Kano because his look is a little bit different from what I was expecting. Maybe there's going to be a reason, an actual storyline explanation for that. So if that's the case, then I'm all right with that.
I
Um,
think Kano's face being basically like, it's not as cybernetic at first. I think it's going to be strictly cosmetic, like story related. I feel like when he's in the midst of battle, I feel like Sonya's definitely going to kick him so hard. That part of where his cybernetic eye is supposed to be is probably going to be exposed. There's more to his face than I think we're being led to believe.
I think so too. Yeah, I think it's,
Yeah.
I think, it's just the first promotional image, so naturally people are like, "What are they going to do away with the cybernetic eye?" Not necessarily.
I'm going to need them to let him actually do an eye laser for once, though.
That would be awesome.
The dude does eye lasers. Why does he never use them? Like, it's ridiculous.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like going back to the first movie when they did that, it's like as much as I liked the actor who played Kano, they seriously depowered him in that movie compared to the way he's supposed to be. Like that should have been a tougher fight for Sonya when you think about it.
Yeah, Kano's not a pushover. He's definitely not a pushover.
Definitely not a pushover.
I'll be honest, there's not one pushover in the Mortal Kombat universe. That's just how they choose to write it sometimes, though. Like, Baraka is lethal. Just not against certain characters.
Exactly. Yeah, but it will be interesting to see when they eventually release the first trailer. What the footage reveals, if anything, about the story. I mean, I would have to think that the first trailer is number one going to premiere soon because the movie comes out in April, which is less than 3 months away. Um, and I would hope it's going to drop some hints as to what the story is going to be, more than just that synopsis that I just read.
Right.
And again, for all we know, the writers could have done a really good job with this Cole Turner character, or Cole Young. And maybe he will be a great addition to the Mortal Kombat universe, but definitely getting some Resident Evil vibes right now.
Yes, 100% Resident Evil 5s. Because you can't have Liu Kang and Kung Lao exist and make them supporting characters. I don't understand that. And Raiden, is Raiden on that list to be in the movie?
He will be in the movie. Yes, that's
okay.
Raiden will be in the movie. Shang Tsung will be in the movie.
I really will. Man, I feel like this is a huge curveball, and this dude is Johnny Cage. Because how do you not put Johnny Cage in it? I don't get that.
And the funny thing is, I had considered that myself, and if that is indeed the case, then great. I'm totally fine with them throwing us off before the movie comes out, and we find out, no, this guy isn't Cole Young, he's Johnny Cage. To
What
which
if
I'm
it's
like, okay, fine.
What if it's some type of weird Hollywood name game they're playing? They're like, oh, well, they call him Johnny Cage because he's a cage fighter, you know?
Wouldn't put it past them.
Because Hollywood, they do that. I swear they do that, dude. Where they won't say a character's name, but they'll say the character's name, if that makes any sense. But they won't actually, like, they'll never call Venom, but they'll say, oh, he's like a Venom, or something stupid like that.
Always so dumb. And the best example I can give, although this one was actually kind of clever. Do you remember when they released the Incredible Hulk? This was back in about 2008.
Wait, which one?
The Edward Norton one.
So we're not talking about evil chihuahuas.
Correct. No evil
okay.
chihuahuas.
The better Hulk movie.
The better Hulk movie.
Yeah.
Even though we still had a little ways to go before we got to the definitive Hulk portrayal, but still,
not a perfect Hulk movie yet. Like Ruffalo still needs his own movie. But all right.
We'd love to see that. But anyway, so in the first Incredible Hulk movie, there's a scene near the end where you have that scientist guy, Dr. Stearns, talking to Emil Blonsky.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctor says to him, you look like you have some stuff in you already. And he's trying to get him to inject him with the serum that made the Hulk. And he says, listen, if I do this to you, the result could be an abomination.
You're right. They did do that.
And I sort of thought, all right, well, that one's kind of clever because I couldn't picture people just calling this guy the Abomination. It's like, all right, in that particular case, I get it. Not to mention he's a more obscure character. But like you said, you take a popular character like Venom or a Mortal Kombat character like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, anybody, you've got to call them by their name, not come up with this weird way to sort of reference their name but not actually call them that.
I'll be honest, Don. Now that we're discussing it, I think they might do that with Sub-Zero and Scorpion. I don't see them calling Scorpion Scorpion. They're going to call him Hanzo. They're going to call him by his real name because going off of the lore, Sub-Zero knows Scorpion is already. I feel like every fight they're just going to acknowledge each other as their real name. Like
Sure.
it's going to be Hanzo and Beyond. That's it. It's never going to be a Sub-Zero.
Well, actually, I have a theory that Hanzo is going to rename himself Scorpion at some point. That he's going to take that name, just like he does in the traditional mythology. Because, I mean, I'm going to have to assume that Quan Chi or somebody's going to be in there at some point when Scorpion turns to the evil side.
He better
And
be.
again, it's all kind of up in the air. We don't know yet.
Because Quan Chi is not on the list, is he?
He's not. So I'm kind of curious to see if that's just going to real quickly be handled in a flashback or what's going to happen.
But Shang Tsung is, right?
Yes.
They could rewrite it to have Shang Tsung do it. Technically, him and Quan Chi are kind of the same type of character. So they could rewrite it to have Shang Tsung do it because otherwise, what will Shang Tsung really be doing in that movie? That Shao Kahn exists as well. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of characters I have a feeling are going to be referenced in name, but it just aren't going to appear on screen.
there is a picture where Jax is like I think he's like trying to block Khan's hammer. Like it legit looks like he's fighting Shao Kahn. Like
I'm
you can see his
yeah, I'm
armor
familiar
too.
with the image. He's definitely blocking something heavy, but you can't
Yeah, if
really.
you look, you can see Khan's armor.
I'll have to take another look at that photo. It's a shame I can't bring it up right now, but it's
Hmm.
yeah, it's yeah, a lot of questions from those photos, no question about it.
Yeah, yeah. They're
So
they're doing Sub-Zero's frost sword, which is pretty cool. I
yeah,
like that.
everybody loves the frost sword,
Hmm.
which was one of the cool things that they introduced in the later installments in the series when they started to say like, okay, you can either attack this person unarmed or you could use a weapon.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the features that they kept. By the way,
They
that
did
kept going. Hmm.
become very popular. So more, like
So,
I said, Mortal Kombat, the reboot coming out in April of 2021, and
so what I want to know is, are there any characters that you personally would like to see a cameo from that you haven't heard about being in a movie?
very very good question, honestly. For me personally, I would love to see a proper Noob Saibot cameo for obvious reasons. I'd like to see I probably would like to see maybe a reptile or Ermac cameo, and this is getting kind of obscure, but I would probably say if indeed Kano and Cabal are in the movie, well, that's a reference to the Black Dragon. So some sort of reference or maybe another character from the Black Dragon organization, even if they just make a brief appearance, that would be pretty cool. Like maybe a character like
Cabal
Cobra or Jarek or one of
or
them.
Cabal?
Cabal's supposed to be in the movie, so that's
Oh,
why
Cabal's in the
I,
movie. Okay, I
I
didn't
don't
know
know how
that.
big of a role, but
I
there is
think
that.
Cabal might be a cop in this movie, bro. I don't think he's going to be burned hooks. I can't breathe on my own Cabal. I think he's going to be a cop. He'll be his original character. Because you got to think about it. We got to have law enforcement in this movie. We got Sonya. We got Jax. Who's other law enforcement? We got Cabal. Stryker, I would have loved to seen Stryker as like a comic relief. That would have been sick. Just this douchey white guy. Hilarious.
Yeah, he and Cabal were referenced in one line of dialogue in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Two of Earth's warriors have already been taken, Cabal and
I
Stryker.
remember that, and they had that was Ermac giving him the report, right?
That was Rain. That
That
was
was Rain.
right
Okay,
after Rain gave his report. He gets hammered into the fire pit.
yeah. He was like, no, tell me, did you make them beg for mercy?
Which was my question. Why exactly is he dying? I thought he said he killed those two. So why are you killing him exactly?
No, because he told him that he didn't kill him. That's why he got pissed off. Did you show them no mercy? He was so mad. Straight one shots Rain.
Destroy everything.
And it is glorious.
It's like Khan, you out of breath there as you're saying that sentence, and it is glory.
That dude committed career suicide because I ain't see him in anything else after that.
I think the only thing I saw that dude appear in after Mortal Kombat Annihilation is I think he played a Klingon a couple of times on one of the Star Trek series. That's why he had to play a Klingon, because he had to be under heavy makeup so that no one recognized.
Oh man.
Agent calls him up. Brian, the actor's name is Brian Thompson. Brian, do you want to do another Star Trek spot? Do I get to wear makeup? Yes, heavy amounts. Great, great. Sign me up.
Yo, now I think about it, dude. Something that we didn't talk about from Annihilation. What was with the Palpatine character? You remember his dad?
Well, the Palpatine character was called Shinnok in the movie.
Oh my goodness gracious. That was supposed to be Shinnok?
Yes.
Ugh.
Which I didn't realize the first time watching the film, and then after Mortal Kombat 4 came out, and I went back and rewatched the movie, I was like, that is not Shinnok. Shinnok is not Shao Kahn and Raiden's father. They're not brothers. This makes no sense.
I forgot about the Palpatine, dude.
He's not Shinnok. He's just the Palpatine.
That's Palpatine, bro. He forgot what movie is.
You let him live.
You let him live. See, you gotta watch Mortal Kombat Annihilation as a comedy. You can't take it serious. If you watch it as a comedy, it's one of the greatest comedies ever made. It really is.
It's the same reason I watch Batman and Robin. You gotta watch it as a comedy.
Oh, that's great. Arnold Schwarzenegger, literally, they gave that man one-liners the whole movie.
How hilarious would it have been to see Arnold as Shao Kahn, actually? God was created in 6 days. So too shall it be destroyed.
Every time he does the shoulder charge, solid. That's good. That's good stuff.
Oh, fan casting, everyone. Arnold Schwarzenegger as Shao Kahn.
I want to do the Photoshop so bad. That's great.
Actually, how awesome would it have been if you actually had Van Damme in the movie as Johnny Cage and Arnold as Shao Kahn?
That would have been amazing. I would have loved that.
Oh, I would have just been like, take my money. No other character needs to be advertised at that point. It's just Jean-Claude Van Damme versus Arnold Schwarzenegger.
But here's the twist, though.
Annihilation.
Here's the twist. Van Damme has to still be wearing his Gal outfit from the Street Fighter movie. For no reason at all, he has orange fatigue on with American flag tattoos. But he's Johnny Cage, though.
And this time he has to do a Sonic Boom because he didn't do one in the Street Fighter movie. So
he did the pose.
That doesn't count.
He did do a crappy flash kick, which is, to their credit, he did a realistic flash kick.
Yes.
Like, because you actually can't physically do that move. So the way they did it actually was pretty dope. Yeah. Like, they made it realistic. So props to Street Fighter. That movie had the perfect Vega, by the way. perfect
He
Vega.
looked the part. I will give him that. Props for the casting and whoever designed the costume. Nice job.
The voice, not so much, but
No,
the
no,
look
not at
nailed
all.
it. Now me, I nailed the Vega voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever want to hear some very solid voice acting, check out Top Tier Brian's voice acting showcase on
Thank you,
his.
sir.
The man does Bison. He does Vega. He's not yet done any Mortal Kombat characters, but one of these days, I think.
Oh man, dude, I didn't realize that until now. I really haven't.
He's just giving you some ideas here, Brian.
Thank you, sir. So anything else about the new film? I know we kind of got off topic a little bit there, but it was for a good laugh because that was
It
hilarious.
was for a great laugh, and one of these days, I'm sure we are going to make a video probably talking about Street Fighter. And truth be told, there's so much to talk about Street Fighter, probably even more than Mortal Kombat.
I totally want to do that.
And so future podcast, ladies and gentlemen, we will be talking Street Fighter. Um, but yeah, the new movie, just to give it one final plug, like I said, April 16th, 2021 on HBO Max and in theaters. If you dare to venture into a theater by April. I mean, I guess if you have the vaccine at that point, go be my guest. But
Yeah, a lot of people gonna have it by then.
and speaking of the movie industry, and I just really want to take a minute to reflect on this. I mean, it pains me to see how much it's been hurt over the last year. I mean, no one could have predicted how widespread the pandemic was going to be, and just so many films have been impacted by it. Um, I think it's great that they have so many streaming platforms available. Streaming platforms are kind of the way of the future, but it makes me a little sad because it kind of makes me wonder if one day we're no longer going to be going to a movie theater to enjoy watching a film.
That's kind of terrifying, and I feel like that's something that us as a people have to make sure it doesn't go away. Like we can't be a complete digital society. Like it'll be toxic for human interaction. We can't do that, man.
Yeah.
We
Support your
can't do that.
support your local theater, please.
Support your local theater and support your local libraries, people.
Yes.
Because libraries are suffering too from the digital age.
I don't know about you, but I still enjoy popping open a good old fashioned book every now and then.
Um,
I get tired of looking at a screen all day long.
I'll be honest, I'm guilty of not popping open a good book in a very long time, but I need to. I need to.
Yeah, I think we all are guilty of that, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, but I guess back to Mortal Kombat one more time. Like I said, reboot's coming out in April. The game's Mortal Kombat 11 is out right now. If you haven't purchased your copy, give it a shot. I mean, there are tons of downloadable characters. You could play as John Rambo. You could play as RoboCop. Who else? Who else? Spawn is another one.
Spawn, oh man, Spawn. Spawn, you got Sindel, you got Rain, who's a complete beast. You got Nightwolf, your boy Nightwolf. Who else? I feel like I'm missing someone.
There are so many.
I'm missing a character. Shiva. Sorry, baby. You know what? To talk about Shiva real quick, they got her. She looked great in that movie. Too bad her fight scene was like 2 seconds long.
She was butchered in that movie. There's no question. There's no question about it.
He looked amazing though.
Yeah, and they did a reasonably good job with the effects, but it's so quick. It's a blink and you miss cameo, pretty much. All right. Well, I just want to thank everyone for listening in to this very special podcast presentation, talking all things Mortal Kombat. I want to thank Mr. Brian Burke, Top Tier Brian, once again for joining me.
Absolutely, anytime, my friend.
And just want to wish everyone a great night. And I just want to say one more time, Mortal Kombat!
Dun, 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 dun. Finish him.